Welcome back, guys. If you haven't watched my video on the Discourse of Suicide, you should click up here somewhere, because you kinda need that in order to get the full scope of this particular video that I'm filming right now. And under the cool, surveilling male gaze of Michel Foucault from the Panopticon, I think we are ready to talk about the negation of negation itself. Marx's critical theory is one of the best ways to understand the negation of negation itself. Capitalism needs people to function. It needs someone to feed on. The fact that we are 7 billion people on this planet, even though the vast majority of us live in complete and utter poverty, is good for capitalism, because it exploits everyone differently. If an acknowledgement of the negation of life should seep into our collective consciousness, this would have bad consequences for the logic of capitalism. The fewer people to exploit, the fewer people to create alienated labor, and the fewer people to consume overall. The capitalist ideology is best shown through the campaign Do It for Denmark by the travel agency Spies. In the ad campaign, Spies urges people to procreate, monetizing the sexual act, even going as far as saying directly that a drop in the birth rate would make a drop overall in their business as well. Now, this doesn't pertain to suicide per se, but it does pertain to the affirmation of life, to the Geist of affirmation. Psychoanalysis says something about this too. There's this theory of basic and surplus repression put forth by Herbert Marcuse in his 1955 book Eros and Civilization. The book synthesizes the ideas of Karl Marx and the ideas of Sigmund Freud. Now, Freud talks about what he calls the reality principle. The reality principle governs our ego, which means that our egos tries to satisfy the urges of the id in socially acceptable and realistic ways. Marcuse then adds to this notion, saying that the most prevailing form of the reality principle is what he calls the performance principle. And that's where we humans are being manipulated to conformity by the capitalist mechanisms. As human beings and societies, we have to define ourselves the same way that the capitalist logic defines us. We are manipulated in such a way that the restriction of our libidos, of our desires, seem completely normal. And out of the performance principle comes basic and surplus repression. Basic repression is what human beings have to repress in order to enter communities with each other, in order to create a society. Surplus repression is the excess repression. That's the thing that can manipulate us. In fact, that's what makes us capitalist-loving bourgeois people. And the constant repression of negation seems like a viable thing in our societies today. Negation is not necessarily a basic thing of the human constitution, but it is a thing that can manipulate us in certain ways. By constantly affirming life, we are repressing something in excess, allowing us to stay in the circuits of capitalism. Another feature of psychoanalysis would be Julia Kristeva's notion of abjection. She wrote about it in her book Powers of Horror from 1980. Abjection is a collapse in meaning between I and the other. And we abject many things in our lives like piss, pus, wounds, shit and vomits. But Julia Kristeva mentions a corpse as a particularly strong object of abjection. And that's because it shifts the role of the abject. Usually we are the ones who's pushing something away as if it's strange to us. We are the ones who's doing the abjecting. But in the case of a corpse, the corpse is now abjecting us. We are confronted with the fragility of our own existence when we think about ourselves being dead, when we think about ourselves as being corpses. And that could lead to a complete dismissal of negation on a societal level. And lastly, Michel Foucault. Foucault's notion of power is different than the one we just talked about in the Marxian sense. Power is now something you do, it's not something you have. We enter power relations with everyone and they shape our decisions. So you seeing your family members or your friends reacting badly to negation in some kind of way would allow you to not stay in that space. Due to those reactions, when something life negating comes up, it motivates you to not entertain the idea of negation. And that means that power emerges in those relationships. According to Foucault, whenever something influences you, it exerts its power over you. At the end of Discipline and Punish, this book, Michel Foucault asks, is it really any wonder that our institutions all look the same? Our factories, our schools, our hospitals, our psychiatric wards, etc. And in this case, he's referring to discipline, which is a specific type of power. And power in this sense, power in the disciplinarian sort of way, is being distributed differently than it used to be. The institution of media could be said to be working with the institution of the psychiatric ward when it comes to suicide. Whenever suicide or the negation of life comes up, it's always in the context of mental disorders, depression, bipolarity, anxiety, or it's in the context of terrorist attacks. These institutions, media and the psychiatric ward, could be exerting power over us through discipline. We internalize people's wishes and demands and expectations through media. And through the psychiatric system, suicidal people can be confined, surveilled, and analyzed. From a Foucauldian point of view, we've created this rupture in dialogue between the suicidal people and the non-suicidal people, between negation and affirmation. I hope you liked these two videos, and if you did, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!